Good morning, my dear student friends. I welcome you all to this Economics 2 class. As I told you earlier, this economics subject, which contains two textbooks, one is Microeconomics and another one is Macroeconomics. This Microeconomics, which has totally 6 chapters, such are Introduction, Theory of Consumer Behavior, Production and Costs, the theory of the firm under perfect competition, market equilibrium, and non-competitive markets. So these are the certain chapters which kept in this microeconomics. So let us go one by one. The first chapter, that is Introduction, as title suggests. Here we see some introductory concepts like the meaning of simple economy, central problems of an economy, organizations of economic activities, means in the central planned economy and market economy, what kind of economic activities conducts. So that we learn here. Thereafter, positive economics and normative economics, means here we see the mean of positive and normative economics, certain theories which falls in that positive and normative economics that we learn in this positive and normative economics, differences between that positive and normative economics. Thereafter, microeconomics and macroeconomics. Here we learn the meaning of microeconomics and macroeconomics, the differences between micro and macroeconomics. So this all kept in this first chapter, followed by second chapter, that is theory of consumer behavior. Here we learn how consumer has to behave to get more satisfaction. To make you understand, they have kept concepts like utility. Here we learn the meaning of utility, the features of that utility, and there are certain theories which helps to calculate that utility, such are cardinal utility analysis, which developed by Sir Alfred Marshall. Here Alfred Marshall said that utility we can calculate by using cardinal numbers. Like second analysis or approach, that is ordinal utility analysis, this developed by R.J.D. Allen and J.R. Hicks. Here Allen and Hicks said that we can compare the utility. So this all we study in that utility concept. Thereafter, the consumer's budget, means here we learn how we have to expand how we have to utilize our that limited resource or budget. To make you understand, they have kept concepts like budget set and budget line, changes in the budget set. Thereafter, optimal choices of the consumer, means where that consumer gets more satisfaction by using his limited resources. Thereafter, we have concept that is demand. Generally, if we take this term, that is demand, we say as desire, need or expectation or want. But in our economics, demand has its own definition or meaning. Merely that desire or want or need will not become demand. Along with that desire, that consumer has to fulfill some more conditions, such are ability to pay and willingness to buy. Once the consumer fulfills all these three conditions, and that time only that desire will become demand. In this demand concept, they have kept some sub-concepts like demand curve, the law of demand, deriving a demand curve from indifference curves and budget constraints. So this much they have said about demand. Thereafter, normal good and inferior goods. So we have many kinds of goods in an economy. So in those goods, some goods comes under that. Some goods are called normal goods, some goods are called inferior goods. On the basis of their natures, we categorize those as normal good and inferior good. So there we learn the meaning of the normal good and inferior goods. Example to those normal goods and inferior goods. In that concept only we learn the relationship between demand and income in that normal and inferior goods. Thereafter, one more concept they have kept, that is substitutives and complements. Means in goods we see some kinds of goods which are having substitute nature, some kinds of goods are having complementary nature. Here also we study the meaning of substitute goods, meaning of complementary goods, the differences between substitutes and complementary goods, and the relationship between price and demand to another good. In both concept we see price and the price of one good and demand to another good we learn here. Thereafter, shifts in the demand curve, means sometimes the demand curve which shifts rightward or upward, sometimes the demand curve shifts leftward or downside or left side. Shifts in the demand curve. Sometimes the demand curve which shifts upward, sometimes the demand curve shifts downward. For example, in when income changes, the purchasing power of the consumer which increases, at that time demand curve shifts upward or right side. If the income of the consumer decreases, at that time purchasing power decreases, at that time demand curve which shifts left side or downward. Like movements along the demand curve and shifts in the demand curve. Sometimes the demand curve which becomes steeper, and sometimes the demand curve which becomes flatter. So that also we learn in this concept. Thereafter, market demand. Here we learn the meaning of that market demand. Thereafter, the diagram or the shape of that market demand curve, how it constructs, that we learn in this market demand kind of concept. At last, we have kept a concept, that is elasticity of demand. In this, we learn how much that demand, quantity demand, responded due to change in one of its determinant factors. To make you understand this concept, they have kept some concepts like elasticity along a linear demand curve, factors determining price elasticity of demand for a good, elasticity and expenditure. So these are the certain concepts which they kept in this elasticity of demand. So this much concepts they have kept in that second chapter. Come at third chapter, that is production and costs. So here we learn the meaning of that production, meaning of that production function. Thereafter, the theories, the short run and long run production functions. Thereafter, they have kept concepts like total product, average product and marginal product. So here we learn the meaning of the total product, average product and marginal product, and how we can calculate those concepts. Thereafter, they have kept a concept, that is the law of diminishing marginal product and the law of variable proportions. So here these are the long run production function. So how that production function conducts, that we learn in this return to scale concept. At last, they have kept a concept, that is castes. So here we learn the meaning of castes. What are the different types of castes in short run castes and long run. So this much they have kept in this third chapter. Come at fourth chapter, the theory of the firm under perfect competition. The fourth chapter, the theory of the firm under perfect competition, means here they have kept a concept about the market which categorized on the basis of degree of competition. So here we learn about the meaning of that perfect competition, the definitions of that, the meaning of that perfect competition, the features of that perfect competition, thereafter revenue, the meaning of that revenue, some concepts like total revenue, average revenue and marginal revenue, thereafter profit maximization, how that profit maximizes in this perfect competition, that we learn in this profit maximization kind of concept. To get maximum profit, that producer has to fulfill all these three conditions, such are condition number 1, condition number 2, condition number 3. Condition number 1, which says where that P should be equal to marginal cost. Condition number 2, where that marginal cost should not be decreasing, there should be an increasing order. Like third, that P should be equal to average variable cost. In short run, in long run, P should be greater than the average cost. So these are the three conditions. Where these three conditions fulfills, there we get maximum profit. Thereafter, the profit maximization problem, geographical representation. So this concept we have kept. Short run supply curve of a firm, long run supply curve of a firm, means how that short run supply curve takes shape, and long run supply curve of a firm, the shutdown point, the normal profit and break even point. So these are the certain concepts which comes in that supply curve of a firm. Thereafter, determinants of a firm's supply curve. So how that firm's supply curve determines, that we learn here. Generally, that firm's supply curve determines by the two factors, such are technical progress and input prices. So these are the two main determinant factors which determines the firm's supply curve. So when that firm technically sound or progressed at that time, firm's supply curve which shifts right side or which upwards. If that firm is not technically progressed at the time, the firm supply curve which shifts left side or decreases. Like input prices, if the price of that inputs is high at that time, the firm supply curve which shifts left side. If the prices of that inputs, if it is less at the time, firm's supply curve shifts right side or upside. Like last but one concept, that is market supply curve. Here we learn meaning of market supply curve and the shape of that market supply curve. Last concept, that is price elasticity of supply. Here we see how much that supply has responded due to change in price. Here we see various concepts like supply is greater than that price, supply is equal to that price, supply is less than that price. So like various kind of concepts we learn in this price elasticity of supply. This much concepts they have kept in this fourth chapter. Come at fifth chapter, that is market equilibrium. Here we learn the meaning of that equilibrium, excess demand and excess supply. To make you understand, they have kept two concepts. Those are market equilibrium when fixed number of firms, market equilibrium in where free entry and free exit. So how we get equilibrium in these two kinds of conditions. Applications, price ceiling and price floor. hope you have heard the terms or words like minimum support price. So about those we learn in this price floor kind of concept. So later we will see in depth what is price ceiling and price floor. So this much concepts they have kept in this market equilibrium chapter. Come at last and sixth chapter, that is non-competitive markets. Here we see simple monopoly in the commodity market, means it is also one of the types of non-competitive markets, that is monopoly market. So here we learn the meaning of that monopoly market, the features of the monopoly market. Market demand curve is the average revenue curve. In this monopoly market, that market demand curve only will become average revenue curve, and some concepts like total, average and marginal revenues, marginal revenue and price elasticity of demand, short-run equilibrium of the firm, monopoly firm. So these concepts kept in this simple monopoly. These concepts kept in this simple monopoly in the commodity market firm. Come and last concept, that is other non-competitive markets. Other than that monopoly market, we have some other markets, non-competitive markets, such as monopolistic market, oligopoly market, duopoly market. About those we learn in this non-perfectly competitive market concepts, means meaning of those non-competitive markets, features of those monopoly markets, and functions of those monopolistic markets. I hope you all understood the gist of every chapters. In our upcoming classes, we are going to take the chapters one by one. Please remember these chapters. Second chapter which related to first, third chapter related to second, fourth related to third, fifth related to fourth, like all chapters are interrelated. Thank you.